Hi Year 5. So this is the video that I'm going to play for you to help you with your shared reading. And we're going to do, obviously, there's a boy in the girls' bathroom, which we looked at yesterday. And we looked at the front cover and at the back cover. And some of you wrote down what you thought the book would be about. I'm doing this at night again, so my face looked really bad, so I put a light in front of me, there we go, which is making my face look terribly bright now. So I'm sorry about that. So you either get really bright or you get really dark, so we'll go with bright. I'm going to read chapter 1 for you, because the work that I want you to do is to read it for yourselves, and I've printed it out. I've typed it out for you onto a sheet which will be on Class Story, and I want you to read it from there, and I want you to notice words that you think that either you don't know the meaning of, or that you are, then words that you don't use very much. And then when you've found those words, find about 5 and look them up on Word Hippo or in a dictionary if you've got a dictionary at home. Write them down, look them up, and write down the meaning of the words. Or you can, and write down some synonyms, some words that mean similar. The important thing is, and the really important thing is, that you choose the meaning that fits with the sentence. It's got to be a meaning that would make sense in the sentence, okay? And then when you've done that, the way you'll know if it's the right meaning is when you choose one of the synonyms, write the sentence out again, but with the synonym in instead of the original word. And if your sentence still makes sense, then you chose the right word. You chose a good word to fit in, and that will show me you understand the meaning. So 5 words. Find the meaning. Find 3 synonyms. Choose one of those synonyms and write out the sentence with the synonym instead of the word you looked up. Okay? And you have to choose a word that has the right meaning, because sometimes words have different meanings. Okay? Choose a word with the right meaning. Okay, so I'm going to read chapter 1 to you, which is the one I've printed out. I'm hoping that you've got that in front of you. I'm hoping that somehow you will manage to have the words I've printed out in front of you, so that, because you can do half and half on a screen, that you can read it along with me, or you can read it to yourself from the words straight after I've read it. Then hopefully you'll have no problems with any of the reading. Okay. Chapter 1. Bradley Chalkers sat at his desk at the back of the room. Last row, last seat. No one sat at the desk next to him or at the one in front of him. He was an island. If he could have, he would have sat in the closet. Then he could shut the door so he wouldn't have to listen to Mrs. Ebble. He didn't think she'd mind. She'd probably like it better that way. So would the rest of the class. All in all, he thought everyone would be much happier if he sat in the closet. But unfortunately, his desk didn't fit. Now, one of the words you might choose is closet. So please think about choosing closet. Class, said Mrs. Ebble, I would like you all to meet Jeff Fiskin. Jeff has just moved here from Washington, D.C., which, as you know, is our nation's capital. Bradley looked at the new kid, who was standing at the front of the room next to Mrs. Ebble. "Why don't you tell the class a little bit about yourself, Jeff?" urged Mrs. Ebble. The new kid shrugged. "There's no reason to be shy," said Mrs. Ebble. The new kid mumbled something, but Bradley couldn't hear what it was. "Have you ever been to the White House, Jeff?" said Mrs. Ebble. "I'm sure the class would be very interested to hear about that." "No, I've never been there," the new kid said very quickly as he shook his head. Mrs. Ebble smiled at him. "Well, I guess we better find you a place to sit." She looked around the room. "I don't see any place except, I suppose you could sit there at the back." "No, not next to Bradley," a girl in the front row exclaimed. "At least it's better than in front of Bradley," said the boy next to her. "I don't mind where I sit," Jeff mumbled. "Well, nobody likes sitting there," said Mrs. Ebble. "That's right," Bradley spoke up. "Nobody likes sitting next to me." He smiled a strange smile. He stretched his mouth so wide it was hard to tell whether it was a smile or a frown. He stared at Jeff with bulging eyes as Jeff awkwardly sat down next to him. Jeff smiled back at him, so he looked away. As Mrs. Ebble began the lesson, Bradley took out a pencil and a piece of paper and scribbled. He scribbled most of the morning, sometimes on the paper and sometimes on his desk. Sometimes he scribbled so hard his pencil point broke. Every time that happened, he laughed. Then he'd tape the broken point to one of the gobs of junk on his desk, sharpen his pencil, and scribble again. His desk was full of little wads of torn paper, pencil points, chewed erasers, and other unrecognizable stuff all taped together. Mrs. Ebble handed back a language test. "Most of you did very well," she said. "I was very pleased. There were 14 A's and the rest B's. Of course, there was one F, but—" She shrugged her shoulders. Bradley held his test up for everyone to see and smiled that same distorted smile. As Mrs. Ebble went over the correct answers with the class, Bradley took out his pair of scissors and very carefully cut his test paper into tiny squares. When the bell rang for recess, he put on his red jacket and walked outside alone. "Hey, Bradley, wait up!" someone called after him. Startled, he turned round. Jeff, the new kid, hurried alongside him. "Hi," Jeff said. Bradley stared at him in amazement. Jeff smiled. "I don't mind sitting next to you," he said. "Really?" Bradley didn't know what to say. "I have been to the White House," Jeff admitted. If you want, I'll tell you all about it." Bradley thought for a moment and then said, "Give me $1 or I'll spit on you." So there we go. That's the first chapter. And you'll be getting an idea in your head about what Bradley Chalkers is like, what Mrs. Ebble is like as a teacher, whether she's kind and whether she's somebody who likes Bradley or doesn't like Bradley, and what Jeff's like. Is he a nice boy, this new boy that's come from Washington, D.C., which is the capital? That's the capital of America. And this story is set in America. There's a few clues in here already that this is set in America. And so I want you to choose those sentences, choose those words. Recess might be one of them. And make sure it fits in make sense in the sentence. Choose 5 words, look at them in a dictionary or Hungry Hippo, and find synonyms, the meaning and synonyms. Fit one of those synonyms into the sentence and write the sentence out. Okay, do that really carefully. Make sure you use capital letters and full stops and any other punctuation that's in the sentence. Atia, make sure your Y's hang down nicely. And Alicia, join up your handwriting because your work is super. Just join up your handwriting. Okay, well done everybody. See you in the Zoom. Bye-bye.